Welcome again to my channel. This is my third video in this current 2022 series. So I recorded a video yesterday and I didn't post it. I was too self-conscious. It's new for me to be doing these videos in a spontaneous way. My previous videos that I made for my website and, for the internet in general, just to have someone whose background is in psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, they were a lot more, not quite scripted, but much more structured. And I edited them. I recorded them continuously. I don't think I edited too much in the middle, but they were much more kind of planned. And these are much more spontaneous because I think that's part of the healing, and that's part of the intention of what I am offering is a human being talking to you. And the more authentic I can be, the more kind of spontaneous and free that I can be, as much as I can be, because obviously I am not an enlightened human being in that way. But the more I can be spontaneous, the more I can offer you my energy in that way of, you watching and being kind of hanging out with me, as I have some tea and I just talk about some of the things that I feel that going in depth about is really, really necessary. But I watched that video that I recorded yesterday, and I saw something in it that I do in the way that I speak, that I was just too self-conscious, and I sat with it for a day, and I considered editing it, and I just decided, you know what, it's okay. It's okay to just set it aside, and I'm going to re-record, and I'm still going to talk about what's important, what it was that I wanted to convey. But I didn't want to share that. That does happen, and it's new for me to be on camera and to be talking to a tiny little, black box on top of my computer screen and imagining all of you, and kind of seeing a little version of me at the bottom that I'm going to try to minimize. But so here's what I actually want to talk about. Here's what I want to talk about. This collective unease. Yesterday, when I decided to do the video, I wasn't planning on it, but when I woke up, I had this weight, this kind of aching that I was feeling, and it wasn't attached to anything in my personal life as such. I mean, I could always dig. I could always, if there was anything I could do, it's find some personal pain. But I've learned that that's actually not always the best way to understand what's going on. And what I recognized was that this aching was actually connected to a bigger collective aching that we're all experiencing. And since I have started this video series, and it's partly why I started this series, is that I want to point some of these things out and hopefully offer a little bit of validation for what you might be feeling, and that this aching that I felt being collective, you may be feeling too. You may be having a general sense of malaise and a general sense of, I don't know what to do. And so there is a lot of unrest out there that is not yet visible except through things like rising gas prices and grocery bills and things like that we're feeling. But we're still trying to live normal. We're still trying to kind of, especially after COVID, or sort of, who knows what after means, right? But after the big impact, the 2 years of COVID, we're trying to live a life that is normal, that is going to work and trying to find meaning and reading things we like and being on the internet, sometimes looking at stupid stuff, um, but it's not normal anymore. And the truth is that our systems are crumbling right now. They're beginning to crumble and they're going to keep crumbling. And that's a good thing. I don't say any of this to frighten you. And if there's one thing I could try to impart in you and anyone who's finds my videos and my materials, is that fear is actually the bigger contagion than anything else. And what I hope to instill is a kind of maybe a path to hope, and I will get to that towards the end of the video. But first to say, things are crumbling. And they have to crumble because they weren't working to begin with. I mean, we see this. It doesn't take a genius, and and I'm not well versed in too much of the news. I try not to watch the news because I don't like being fed mentally, that which the media companies want me to consume. I like to read what I can on my own, learn what I can on my own. And mostly I like to stay connected to nature, my family, and myself, and my work. And that is what sustains me. So I say all of this not to frighten you, but to validate that, if you are feeling fear, if you are feeling anxiety, it's understandable because things are crumbling and because we are in the process of, what's the word even? Restructuring? I think that happens later, but we're in the process of dismantling, dismantling the structures that weren't working, and they never go without a fight. Those structures, we've put in decades of energy and resources into building those structures, and for them to collapse is a big loss. And so they're going to fight it. The structures are going to fight it. And so yeah. So one thing I wanted to validate is that if you are struggling, especially financially, you're mostly responsible and you do your best. You don't necessarily count every penny. I don't. I'm not the best budget keeper, but I'm responsible with my money. And if you're generally responsible and you're kind of struggling, it's because the changes that are happening are kind of built into the financial system that, from what little I know, they kind of printed up a bunch of fake money. Not fake. I don't mean fake. I just mean they just printed up a bunch of money that wasn't in the system and used it to line the pockets of the rich people and drove up all the prices. And so, the supermarket isn't going to, have a website that says, oh, by the way, the cost of eggs is going up by $1 and the cost of milk is going up by $1, right? They're not going to advertise that. And you're not going to, I mean, maybe there are websites that would be interesting actually to see if somebody's tracking this, but I certainly am not. I go to the grocery store and I say, here's how much I would like to spend this week and see what happens, essentially. And sometimes it doesn't work. And I'm just like, but it's the same, kind of same stuff that I generally buy. Why is this more expensive? And even that's hard to notice. Even that's hard to really recognize that that's going on. So if you're struggling, you should know that it's not your fault, because it's what's happening around you that you don't see within the financial systems, within the unbelievably complex political and socioeconomical and what have you systems that is affecting you in ways that may even be really hard to pinpoint. But the end result is that you are having a hard time and potentially blaming yourself, potentially going, wow, I used to be able to pay down my credit card. Why can't I now? I have the same paycheck. Um, so, I mean, I live in the country now for the last year, and everywhere you need to go, you have to drive. And when we moved here, the cost of gas was, was it like 250? Something like that. It was, I mean, maybe I'm making that up. It was certainly under $4 for sure. I think it was actually like 279 maybe. And now it's 479. That comes out of the paycheck. That comes out of the bank account. And you don't quite notice it because you fill up your gas tank and you go but that comes out of the grocery budget or the whatever, house necessities and stuff. So I wanted to impart that it's not your fault, and that it is happening as a result of a much bigger picture than maybe you know. So hope. A lot of young people now are hopeless, and not in the depression sort of way, not in the I don't care about living way, but in actually a much more insidious way where they go to school, but they don't care and they don't want to care. Some do, of course. There's always, I'm not speaking, this is not a pronouncement of any sort, but the trends that I'm seeing, I have friends who are teachers and who are noticing this, that anyone under, I don't know, maybe under mid 20s and certainly college and high school aged kids are much more hopeless than ever. And it's quite, it's disheartening. It's really actually scary. And because they don't know what kind of world they're entering in terms of what are they going to be able to do. I mean, the system is crumbling, and I think they feel it on a deep level, even if, I mean, I'm looking at it as, as much as I can, and even I can't really articulate it. And if I was to delve into the financials, I would lose sight of something else, and I would still be probably unable to articulate why things feel like they're crumbling. And there's a tension in the air. There's a tension in the air, and why things are feeling unsteady. So we need hope. We need a way to keep moving forward regardless of what's happening out there. And so my I guess my advice and my personal solution is to come back to things that give you a connection with nature, give you a way to be motivated by something that is in your hands, that's something that you can do. And I don't necessarily mean build things, unless you like to build things. It could be art, so making things, but it's being creative in any way that is authentic to you. And it's not necessarily art. Like, one thing I'm really love and really connected to is gardening. Am I creating something? I'm facilitating something, right? Nature is creating it. I'm guiding it. I feel connected to it. So, but it helps me come back to the moment. It helps me feel close to something that is outside of these crumbling systems, but that is very much a part of what is natural. So the planets don't care if the planets, I meant to say the plants, but the planets, I guess, too. But the plants don't care if there's a war going on, or if the dollar has fallen, or if Bitcoin is crashing, or whatever. The plants are just growing. It puts you right in the moment. When I look at my bean plants and I go, oh, shoot, you know what? I planted them too early and it's going to go down to 46 degrees. And I told you I'm obsessed with the weather. Um, and they're going to die or something. And I'm right there. I'm in the moment. And yet it matters. It's not just a way to cope in that moment. It's not just a way to dissociate what's happening. It's actually a way to connect to something that is deeply, deeply meaningful. So a lot of us are coping by various things that are actually not good in the bigger picture. So, playing on your phone and scrolling in TikTok and, whatever else that you might be doing, video games, I'm trying to think of what else. Certainly drugs, alcohol, what have you, all those things that are damaging. The screen time is so damaging, right? Whereas when you look at a garden, or when you look at herbs, when you look at whatever is creative and meaningful to you, it's not that you are dissociating or just coping. You are actually paving a path towards something that is meaningful. And the word that comes to mind is eternal, although I don't quite mean that, but I mean eternal in the sense of your connection to the moment, because in the moment there is no time. It is just now. And so when I look at my bean plants, I'm not just coping with the fact that the financial system is crumbling. I'm also connected to the earth and to my internal life and my even stuff that I may need to work on. My impatience, for example, like I planted the bean plants too early, or my anxiety that I did something wrong. So there's plenty to work on in the moment. So find those things that help you do that. Learn herbs, learn things that you can do outside of the system, right? You can use the system if you are able to go to the doctor or acupuncturist or herbalist or what have you. That's fantastic. Do that. But I'm talking about finding ways to feel, I was going to say self-sufficient, and I think I mean that. I don't mean being an island. I don't mean, going into the woods and being self-sufficient and off the grid and all that, unless that's something you're into, in which case, by all means, right? I'm not extreme about these things. I don't talk about, let's try to get off the grid, or let's grow absolutely every possible thing you can grow, or be absolutely never have to go to the grocery store. I don't mean any of that. But any path that you can take that helps you have a sense of agency. And I think that was the term that I was hoping I'd get to without realizing it. That you don't just feel like things are crumbling around you and you have no action that you can do. There is always something you can do. Even in a dark prison cell, you can go inward, right? And I really hope that you're not in a dark prison cell, literally or metaphorically. But I do hope that you find things that give you a sense of agency. If you watch somebody do a video on, I don't know, making herbal tinctures or how to do a massage or whatever, and you feel inspired, take that and watch more and watch more and learn it and go do it and take it into your hands and do something that helps you feel connected to something bigger, to something deeper, to something that is in the moment and connected to nature, connected to the body. So hopefully I haven't rambled too much and this is useful and meaningful to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have ideas for things that of this nature that I have mentioned and have alluded to. By all means, please comment and let's have a conversation. Thank you so much for watching. Be well. Take care.